Hey, Redheads and everyone listening. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Adrienne. And today we have such an exciting episode because we're talking all about understanding
Skin.
redhead skin.
Redhead skin.
So we want to talk about basically Stephanie and I's battle with our redhead skin. And then we have the renowned dermatologist, Dr. Leslie Baumann, as our guest today. And we're really going to dig in and talk about all of the important things that every redhead needs to know about their skin. So we first wanted to start talking about some of the funny stories we had with our skin. We have talked in previous episodes about how it was being redheads. But for me specifically, I definitely battled with acne. And I had back acne when I was growing up.
I think it's also, Adrienne was a swimmer, so I think the chlorine with your
Maybe
back
aggravated
knee,
it.
I remember it was always, you could see it where your bathing suit hit. So I don't know if it was the chlorine, but back then you just had Proactive.
Right. So I had
Proactive
Proactive.
infomercials were all over TV. So that's the only thing we knew.
Right. So I had Proactive.
Which dried out your skin like crazy.
So bad. And what I was telling Stephanie earlier was what's crazy is I was using these products to dry out my skin thinking, okay, I'm doing the right thing. And then I continued to battle getting pimples here and there. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Because my mom, she never breaks out. My dad has never had a pimple in his life. My sister doesn't break out. What am I doing wrong? And what I didn't know I was doing wrong was I had super sensitive skin. It was very, very thin, like most redheads. They have what I think it's called cuperose skin. I think that's the right term. But it's every redhead usually has very thin skin, which makes it sensitive. And I really struggled with getting pimples and getting acne. And then I found out about face oils and I found out about spritzers for the face to hydrate. And what I realized I was doing was I was drying out my skin instead of hydrating it. And it was really, really causing me to have issues.
And I think that's why anytime we do articles on howtobearedhead.com focusing on serums and facial oils, more focused on facial oils, we always get questions or comments from redheads who have oily skin saying, I can't wear facial oils, or asking questions on, can I use facial oils if I have oily skin? And I think that's the misconception about face oils, is that a lot of redheads who have oily skin are saying, no, X, I'm not going to go to the beauty department or the beauty aisle and getting a facial oil, when in fact, it's good for those who have oily skin.
I know. And it's scary. It's scary when you suffer with acne or pimples.
To put
and then you're putting
on.
more oils on. It's scary, but I've seen people who've done it, and I'm someone who has done it, and it literally transforms your skin, and you're like, wow, after 2 or 3 weeks, you're really wowed. And I think so on top of that, I also loved sunless tanner. I don't think Stephanie and I wore enough sunscreen growing up.
We didn't.
Yeah, we just didn't wear enough sunscreen. And
I got horrible sunburns. I think everyone has that story on their worst sunburn. And mine was when I was in
Pismo Beach.
8th grade. I
think you were in 8th grade.
It was Pismo Beach, California. We were with our mom and her best friend, and we were by the pool. It was a cloudy day, and I remember saying, I was wearing, first off, a polka dot 2-piece. I'll never forget, hot pink. It came from Target. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, I don't need to go in the hotel room and get the sunscreen. It's cloudy out.
Yeah.
4 or 5 hours later, I got the worst sunburn. I had to stay in bed. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You went out with Sandy to go get ice cream, I think. And
it's my mom's friend. Yeah.
And our mom's friend. And my mom had to stay back with me. By far the worst sunburn I've ever had. I blistered. And I remember, it's crazy how you have these memories being a child. I remember wearing a tank top, being in line at Subway, getting a sandwich. And my back was peeling so bad that it was all over my arms.
I remember.
And in my chest. So after that day, I'm not kidding you guys, I became super anal about sunscreen. I needed sunscreen. But then something happened in college where I didn't stop wearing it. I just felt
it was a pain, maybe.
Yeah. Looking back now, if I was in college right now at Miami, and I would have at least 2 bottles in my backpack, my school backpack, and I would be reapplying throughout campus because you're walking around campus and you think they're short walks, but a 20, 30-minute walk to class adds up if you're going to your car or the bus. So I really think I didn't wear enough sunscreen in college. And then I think then moving to New York City, same thing. You're walking around so much. You don't realize that you're outside walking more than you think.
Yeah.
So overall, over the past 5 years, I think that you can agree too, I feel very confident in my sunscreen regimen, but it was that one blistering sunburn that did it.
And it's finding the right sunscreen that we always say is Redhead Friendly approved. I mean, you will not find products on our website that are going to clog your pores or going to make you break out. All of the sunscreens we've really, really tested. And so that's why today with Dr. Leslie Baumann coming on, we are so excited to talk with her about all of the intricate things about redhead skin, what redheads should do, how they should protect their skin, the science behind redhead skin.
Yeah, and a couple weeks ago, we did a few Insta stories on skincare questions. So we took a couple questions from you guys, and we have them in the interview questions. So they're focused on rosacea, acne, pigmentation, inflammation, lifestyle, being outside in the sun. So let's dig into it and call her.
We're so excited to talk to Dr. Leslie Baumann, and we wanted to just give her an introduction so you all know how wonderful, qualified, intelligent, and what a marker she has been in the dermatology world. She's a dermatologist, an author, a researcher based in Miami. In 1997, she founded the Cosmetic Dermatology Center at the University of Miami. Both Stephanie and I's alma mater.
Ooh, go Canes!
Go Canes! She authored the first textbook on cosmetic dermatology, which has been translated into 8 languages and became the most widely used cosmetic dermatology textbook around the world. In 2009, she founded and is the CEO of the Baumann Cosmetic and Research Institute. Baumann has continued to author several dermatology textbooks, and one also includes the very famous New York Times bestseller, The Skin Type Solution. In 2014, Dr. Baumann founded Skin Type Solutions franchise system, which uses a turnkey in-office skincare retail methodology based on the 16 Baumann skin types that is now used in over 100 doctor offices to train their staff and prescribe skincare regimens and treatment plans for their patients. The system provides an online retail store and educational material offered through participating doctors.
We first met Dr. Leslie Baumann at an Aveeno event in New York City back in 2011 when How to Be a Redhead launched.
Woo.
We loved her tips and has since provided many of her top skin tips and articles on howtobearedhead.com. We're so excited to have her today to discuss even more skin tips for us redheads.
Yeah, so let's give her a call because I'm so excited to dig in and talk about all these exciting things.
The H2 Bar Box, a monthly beauty subscription box for redheads. Each box is worth $80 plus, and each product is Redhead Friendly approved.
Head to h2barbox.com to subscribe and use code podcast to receive 20% off.
Hello.
Hi, this is Stephanie and Adrienne.
Hi.
Hi,
Dr. Baumann.
long
How are
time
you?
no speak.
Obviously, we love that you're a natural redhead, and you are. I mean, we've known so much about you for so long, but we really dug into all of your success for this podcast, and I was like blown away at all of the wonderful things that you've done for the dermatology world. And we were wondering, to kick this all off, if red hair influenced your interest in dermatology when you were growing up, like perhaps if you had super sensitive skin to begin with, or if there was any correlation, or if it maybe just assisted you with like standing out amongst other doctors or something, you know, in terms of physically. So we were just wondering about all that.
Well, when I was little, I was blonde when I was a baby, and then my hair turned red. And I don't know why. I never had any doctors in my family, but I always wanted to be a doctor. And we have a famous story in my family that my mom was brushing my hair and when it was red, and she said, "Honey, when you grow up, I think you're going to be a brunette." And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm going to be a doctor." So I was red, but then it got kind of brown, and then I never would get sun because I was just really I would burn really easily. I never could tan, and so I just didn't look good when the hair went from red to brown. It was like that reddish brownish color.
Yeah.
So I started dyeing it back to be red. Now I'm gray, so I have to dye it. But so I feel like I'm kind of like half of a redhead. You know, I must have a brown gene in there as well because it got darker.
Right.
But it did influence me because I just feel like if I have brown hair, I look like somebody who needs to get a little sun. But when I have red hair, it's all balanced.
Oh my gosh. And we're obviously big fans of the skin type solution. We know that it started off as a book, and then now dermatologists across the world, use it to help consumers find their correct skin type. But what we were so blown away by, and we think redheads suffer with this, is that up to 80% of people have the wrong skin type. And so we wanted to talk to you more about this customized skincare regimen platform and how people can figure out what their skin is, because I feel like so many redheads have no idea. I feel like I have sensitive skin, and I did the test online on the app, so I know mine. But I was just it's so crazy to me that so many people don't know.
Right, and the way we know that, the Skin Type Solution book came out in 2006, and then we did a PBS special in 2010, and a lot of people took the quiz then as well. And then it became online, and we've had about 300,000 people take the quiz, and
Wow.
It's really amazing. Well, 300,000 in the U.S. There's actually about 2 million in China now that have taken it. And it is amazing how people misunderstand their skin. So, for example, some people think they're sensitive because they're using too much exfoliation and maybe using a scrub and a retinol and a glycolic acid all at once, and they're actually causing their own sensitivity, and it isn't their genetic baseline sensitivity. But like with me, earlier you asked about growing up with sensitive skin and being a redhead and all that. I did have eczema when I was younger, so I have really true impaired skin barrier, and allergens can get in easier, so I can get a rash from sheets and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that when you have lighter skin, you see that redness better than somebody who has darker skin. So, for example, African Americans, they get redness and sensitivity too, but they don't see it, so they don't know. So the benefit that we have being light-skinned, because redheads always have light skin, it's the same gene, is that we can at least see that we have inflammation, so we know what to do about it. But people just don't always know to recognize the signs, and they don't always know to use the right product. So that's why the quiz has been great. It kind of helps people figure out what their underlying problems are, because there's so much misinformation out there.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up, this is Stephanie, and I love that you brought up the fact that a lot of people think they're sensitive, but they're really not. And that just is something that I experienced after taking the questions in the app. I realized that I'm not sensitive, but I always thought I was sensitive. And it was because I was using these really abrasive exfoliants that made my skin kind of irritated. So I always thought I had sensitive skin. And then even my local dermatologist told me recently that I do not have sensitive skin, whereas Adrienne has super sensitive skin. So I think that's kind of ironic that I just learned really recently what my real skin type is like.
Do you remember what your Baumann skin type is?
I don't remember
Are you,
off the top of my head.
Do you have trouble, like what happens if you don't wear a moisturizer?
It gets very stiff around my cheeks.
Me too.
And even about an hour later, you're still really stiff?
No, I'm not. No. After I put moisturizer on, I'm pretty good for the rest of the day.
What would you ever accidentally forget to put a moisturizer on?
I don't think you would.
I wouldn't. It's so part of my skincare regimen. But a couple years ago, I would forget, and then it would be very stiff. And then if I applied a makeup, I feel like it wasn't hydrated, so it would kind of look cracked.
And then do you ever feel like shiny in the middle of the day?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, so you have an oily skin type, and you probably don't realize that. So that means you make enough sebum, and that sebum will often protect your skin. It's like a little coating of saran wrap almost that protects your skin. And that's one of the reasons why you're really not sensitive, because that sebum is helping and protecting you. And then when you're exfoliating a lot of that off, you're losing some of your natural protection.
Oh, that makes sense. See, I never wouldn't even think of myself as having oily skin.
But you probably do. That makes so much sense. I feel like that's what it was, because I feel like we had this conversation before when you took the test.
Yeah, and I think it was a little surprised. Wow.
But Dr.
thank
Baumann,
you.
we wanted to talk about your skin, because I know everyone has a different skin type, but you have flawless skin. Like on Facebook, I follow you personally, and I see your gorgeous skin, and I'm like, I wonder what her skin is, and I wonder, if you're sensitive like I am.
Do you know what your skin type is by any chance?
I was sensitive.
You were very sensitive.
I was sensitive, and I forgot the name of it. But I was sensitive.
And what about moisturizers with you? Do you have to always wear them?
Yes, I do have to. Just on my cheeks. I don't necessarily need anything on my T-zone at all. Like if I didn't have it, I wouldn't even notice.
Right. So we'd have to look at your questionnaire results to know for sure. So it's hard to know which one you are. I'm what's called DSNW, dry, sensitive, non-pigmented, wrinkle prone. And we'll talk about what pigmented means in a second. But basically, I have really tough skin. It's very dry. It doesn't hold onto water properly. I don't make enough sebum or enough oil to protect my skin. And I get inflammation from everything. I mean, once I was giving a lecture on rosacea in New York, and I got a reaction to the hotel sheets, and my face was so red, and I'm lecturing about rosacea. It was so funny.
That's something that would happen to me. I'm so susceptible to detergents and anything on my sheets or anything. I'm very sensitive.
It's horrible. So I always bring my own pillowcase, and so that I'm not sleeping on the detergent. And silk pajamas so the sheets won't touch my skin, because I'm just so sensitive to detergent. Even toilet paper if it's fragrance. So I've always had super sensitive skin, and I do think that influenced me to go into dermatology. But so I'm constantly having to use products that are anti-inflammatory and hydrating to repair my skin barrier and to calm down all those inflammatory pathways so that I don't get red. And if I don't keep on the same skincare regimen, the consistent right one every day, then my skin flares and I have problems. And I think that's the main teaching point is figure out your skin type, get on the right skin products and use them consistently every day.
Wow. Yeah, I think
so important. I think the consistency is key on using the right products. But I think Adrienne and I, we learned how to do that over the years. But in the beginning, especially when we started How to Be a Redhead, I think that we were just getting into oils and serums.
Yeah. And Dr. Baumann, what are your favorite skin products to use? I was wondering what you use every day.
So I like to use a milky or a creamy cleanser. I don't want to use anything foaming that's going to strip off any oils or fats on my skin because I need those. Mm-hmm. So I like creamy cleansers. I happen to love the Nia 24 cream cleanser a lot.
I do too.
It's really milky. And it doesn't pull out my eyelash extensions, which is nice because some of those creamy ones will.
They definitely will.
And then I use... Isn't it horrible? You spend all this time and then you use the wrong cleanser and they fall out. So I use that cleanser, and then I use moisturizer that's made to protect the skin barrier. It's really the best moisturizer for people with eczema and impaired barriers. It's called Xerafite. Zerafite, mm-hmm. And it's sold by dermatologists. And I use the one that's called Soothing and Calming. So the Xerafite Soothing and Calming Moisturizer, because it has the argan oil and a lot of anti-inflammatories in it. So it's clean. It's kind of plugging the little holes in my skin as well as putting on anti-inflammatory ingredients. And then I do a sunscreen, and I like a tinted sunscreen just to give myself a little bit of color. And I like either the Obagi Sun Shield. Have you ever done the Obagi Sun Shield?
Yes.
It's great. I'm the blue one, the cool color, which is the lightest one. And then I also love Elta MD Physical. They have a really good one. And PCA has PCA Skincare. They have a called Weightless Sun Protection. Those are my three favorites, but they're all three physical sunscreens. Because my skin's so sensitive that a lot of the chemical sunscreens will burn or give me a rash or bother me, so I can't stand any chemical sunscreens.
Yeah, we actually have PCA Skin tinted. Fair Tint on right now, and it's worked so well with both of our skin types, and I love it. I love the fact that I can wear it and then not wear foundation and not feel like I have to wear foundation.
Yeah, me too. And you know what? You bring up a good point. You shouldn't trust the sunscreen and foundation. So a lot of people will buy foundation that has like SPF 15, but nobody puts on enough of that foundation for it to really protect you. It's better to find a tinted sunscreen and use that instead of a foundation with sunscreen.
Oh,
That's a really good tip, actually.
Yeah, that is. I think it's important because I think a lot of redheads are probably doing just what you said, where they're just wearing a foundation thinking it's enough. They're going outside for numerous amount of hours maybe, but thinking, okay, well, I had SPF in my foundation or concealer or both and I'm all set. But in actuality,
And then you can get a bad sunburn.
Right.
Right. Oh, and I just realized I only told you my morning regimen. I almost forgot the most important part is the nighttime regimen is a retinol of some sort. So you start out with the lowest strength one, and you use it every third night, and then you slowly increase till you can get to the strongest. So I'm on Tazarac gel, which is the strongest of all the retinoids, and I do it every night, all the time. My face, my neck, my chest, even my arms, and it's great. But you can't start out with Tazarac. You need to start out with a very low strength retinol.
So you said you put it on your arms?
Yeah, I live in Miami, and we all get old-looking arms if we don't use our retinoids on our arms.
Wow. Okay. And then when you put it on your face, what's your step? So after you cleanse, do you apply the retinol and then your creams?
So the order that you put things on does depend on your skin type.
Okay.
So it's hard to, but for me, when you're first starting out on a retinoid, you cleanse and then you put any kind of an eye cream, which helps your eye area. And not only does it help give benefits to your eye area, but it also protects your eye area from what you put on next, because a lot of things are too strong for the eye area. So I put on an eye cream, then I'll apply a retinol of some sort. There's many different brands that are good. The most important thing to know when choosing a retinol is don't get a jar or something that when you open it, excuse me, sorry about that. When you open it, you don't want air and light to get in, so you need an airless pump or a tube. And there's a lot of good brands like SkinCeuticals and SkinMedica and Essopi, which ESSOPI. Replenix makes really good ones. You don't have to spend a lot of money on the retinol. They're between $50, $120, but they're the most important step you can do. But if you've been on a retinol for a long time, you can put the retinol on after the eye cream and then your moisturizer. But when you're starting out, you flip it and do it the other way. You do your moisturizer and then your retinol.
Okay.
So retinol is an ingredient that gets in the skin really easily, as opposed to most ingredients that have trouble getting in. So it's okay to put it on top of something else to limit how much gets in the beginning when you're getting used to it.
Wow, that's great to know.
Yeah, my skin, this is Adrienne, is very sensitive. And when I first started using retinol, I
broke out like crazy.
I did. And I never break out on my cheeks. If I break out anywhere, it's on my chin. And I broke out on my cheeks. And then my skin gradually got used to it. But it took a while for it to get used to it. Maybe I used too much, or I was on a very low spectrum, and I used a sensitive retinol from PCA Skin, which I felt like could help me, but it took me a little while to get used to it.
But their retinol is very strong, so it is difficult to get used to their retinol.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, so there are some that are even less.
Yeah, so
strong.
Maybe, I'm definitely going to go with your recommendation. We wanted to talk about how you had mentioned that inflammation is the root cause of a lot of problems that can lead to what people say is sensitive skin. So like acne and rosacea could possibly be caused by inflammation. And that really stuck to us because we were like, wow, redheads might have inflammation and think that they're sensitive.
Or think that they have rosacea.
Right. So we want to talk to you a little bit about inflammation.
Okay, so inflammation is very interesting and complex. A lot of different things can cause it. Your immune cells can cause it, or prostaglandins can cause it. Free radicals can cause it. Any kind of allergy, for example. So there's probably 25 different things that can cause inflammation. But inflammation is always the same thing. It's when the blood vessels dilate, they get bigger, and that's why you see red on your skin, because you're seeing the blood in the blood vessels. So, so different things just block those pathways so that the blood vessels stay a normal size instead of getting bigger is really the issue. Now, sometimes when they get bigger, they'll get leaky too, and fluids and water will come out of the blood vessel, and that's why you get swollen. Like if people get hives, that's what hives are, is when a lot of fluid comes out of the blood vessels. So I like to, I came up with this little teaching guy. I still teach a lot, and I love to teach. So I came up with this little guy I call Inflaman, and Inflaman just represents all the different things that cause inflammation. But you're right, inflammation is bad for a lot of reasons. One is the blood vessels dilate, and after a while, they lose the ability to shrink back down, and that's what rosacea is. That's why people stay red, because their blood vessels won't constrict anymore. But inflammation also turns on all these free radical pathways that lead to aging. So inflammation can be the number one cause of aging.
Oh, wow.
So it's just bad all around.
Yeah.
I never knew that about inflammation, I guess.
Can red wine cause inflammation?
Well, red wine causes your blood vessels to dilate big, and that's what triggers rosacea.
Yeah,
So,
so
but
that's
what's
why you get
interesting
red.
about exactly, but red wine also has resveratrol in it, which is a great antioxidant to counteract free radicals. So that's why a small amount of red wine's okay, but a large amount's not.
Got it.
Interesting. Okay.
Got it. And we wanted to dig too, because we feel like this is something a lot of redheads who live in warm climates or even in the summertime should, I like, again, you have such amazing skin and you live in Miami. And so we know people with red hair and freckles have an increased risk of melanoma. And so what do you do daily to take care of your skin? Like, do you wear a hat daily, or I know you wore sunscreen. We talked about a little bit about it.
I know you talk on your website, on the blog part of it, about UPF clothing, which Adrienne and I love wearing UPF clothing, especially at the beach. So yeah, are there any certain, whether it's on a style aspect or skin, when it comes to protecting yourself while you're a redhead in Miami?
Yes, and by the way, I'm a golfer, and we have a boat, and so I'm in the sun all the time.
Wow.
So, I have to come up with ways. So the first thing is you can take a supplement called HelioCare, HelioCare, and it's a fern extract, and that's what protects ferns from the sun. And it was researched at Harvard, and you can find it. Your dermatologist will sell that in the office, and you can find it online as well. And you take that every day, and that helps block some of the sun damage.
Wow.
I always wear a hat when I can. In fact, if you follow me on Facebook, you see I never have any glamorous pictures because I always have like a hat on and sunglasses, but it's better.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And you have to have a hat. And the studies show that the bigger the bill is of the hat, the better it is. So just baseball caps are not as good, but I don't like wearing those big, huge hats when I play golf because you can't see your club and everything. So I usually have just a baseball hat on. But I have 2 layers of sunscreen underneath at least. So you need to measure out your sunscreen and make sure you're using at least a half a teaspoon on your face, which is a lot more than most people do. Most people only put about 25% of the amount of sunscreen they're supposed to use. So measure it out, make sure you're putting on enough, and it feels pretty thick when you do that if you do it properly. Always wear sunglasses to cover your eyes. And then for sun protective clothing, that is the best, of course. It's hard to find ones that are cool, that breathe, because the way sun protection fabric works is it fills in the holes between the threads. So if you hold your clothes up to a light, you shouldn't be able to see light through, and that's whenever it's going to give you the best sun protection. But because of that, you don't really get air through either. So look for ones that have venting underneath the arms so that you can kind of get air exchange underneath your arms. That helps.
Oh, that's
I
such a
always,
good tip.
yeah, it's hard to find a good one. Do you have a favorite brand?
We love Coolabar. They've been
Yeah.
a favorite of ours for a while now.
And Mott 50.
Yeah, I love
They're really good too.
different things too, but I find if golf shops have lots of different brands now, and even Under Armour has just these pullover, they look like long sleeve T-shirts that are great, that are, they're not fancy or anything, but I like to keep them in my bag. And when I start getting that feeling, again, this is the benefit of being a redhead. You can tell when you're starting to get a little red, and
Yeah.
I'll put it on top then too. So I always have a sun protective shirt with me. And then I joke to all my dermatology friends that if we all wear leggings over our bikinis, we can say it's for sun protection, and maybe one day we can make it be the style.
That would be awesome.
Because I'm 50 now. Whoever decided that we should need to wear like bikinis was not in their 50s.
And so speaking of skin and being a dermatologist, I'm sure you see people about skin checks annually, and Adrienne and myself get our skin checked annually by our local dermatologist. Myself, Stephanie, I was always in the sun a lot as a kid. I was into tennis and outdoor basketball, and then I was a runner for a while in outdoor track and cross country. So as I got older, especially when I was really in college, I never really got my skin checked and my freckles. But now I really do it sometimes every 6 months if I know I've been in the sun a lot. And
You didn't wear enough sunscreen as a kid either.
I didn't. No. And I asked our mom, why didn't you? She just said back then it really wasn't a thing and she wasn't aware that she had to do it. But when should a redhead go to a dermatologist? Do you recommend every year getting your skin checked?
Absolutely, especially if you have somebody in the family who's had melanoma before. A parent or a sibling makes you a much higher risk. So just so your listeners understand that the gene that causes red hair is the same gene. It's attached to the gene that causes melanoma and the gene that causes freckles. And that's why you redheads have freckles, and that's why they're at a much higher risk for melanoma. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to 100% get melanoma, but it means that you are more likely to. So if you get sunburns, that increases your risk of melanoma. So the higher risk you are, the more often you should go to the doctor. So the biggest risk is having red hair, having a relative, a first-degree relative, which is a parent or a sibling, or having a history of one severe sunburn, which unfortunately a lot of redheads have.
Yeah.
So in that case, you need to get checked at least once a year. If they ever find anything suspicious, you're going to need to go twice a year. And it's really good that you're being vigilant because melanoma is absolutely curable if you catch it early.
Yeah, that's what we've learned and we're educated on. So that's why, yeah, I go to the dermatologist and there's a few moles, freckles that they take pictures of and they compare it to last year's, which I really like because I think it's a peace of mind knowing that, okay, this freckle that I was concerned about, it hasn't changed or grew the shapes like the ABCDs of melanoma. And to me, that's really important. And I like knowing that none of them have grown suspicious or, changed shapes.
Right, and I have really good news for you. So they have come out with a new test that it looks like a piece of Scotch tape that you put over the mole, and then you pull it off, and it gets a few little cells, and you send it into the lab, and it tells you if it's melanoma or not, and it's very accurate.
Oh, wow.
And then I just posted. Isn't that amazing?
So
it looks for the
awesome.
genes that cause melanoma, so they can diagnose it even without a biopsy. And then I posted on my LinkedIn account last week that they're studying a new blood test, so they'll be able to draw your blood and look for antigens, which are like proteins that are expressed by the melanoma. So probably in the future you'll be able to have a blood test to screen you before it even shows up on your skin.
Wow, that is so cool.
That is cool
because I know the cases of melanoma are a lot more. I feel like melanoma is downplayed by people. I don't know, for some reason I feel like people don't take it as seriously as they should. It's not good if you have melanoma, and I feel like some people, I know my best friend's dad, he got melanoma and he kind of just doesn't really care about it. He's like, oh yeah, no big deal. And I'm like, it's a really big deal to have melanoma.
Right, because if you catch it early, it's curable. But once you have melanoma, you're more likely to get it other places because it means you have the genetics to get it. So you have to be so vigilant. In Australia, they had a huge melanoma problem, and part of it was because there was a hole in the ozone layer over Australia.
Yeah, I read about that.
And did you read about how the country took all these active steps to make all the kids wear hats and have covered parking, play areas and parking lots. And had like a campaign that was like slip slap pad or something like that. So wear a hat and slap on your sunscreen. And they've lowered their incidence of melanoma significantly just by doing this campaign with kids. Because a lot of the damage happens when you're young and you can't. I have 2 teenagers, and when they were babies, I couldn't make them put on their sunscreen. I used to go to their summer camp at noon and put sunscreen on all the kids because the camp wouldn't do it and the kids wouldn't do it, and here they were in Miami in the summer. So it's really, really important when they're young to do that.
And I think too, we were just at the beach a couple weeks ago, and I think Adrienne and I sitting there, it's such a people watching place for us too, and we're sitting underneath the shade. And for us, what really struck me is that a lot of parents, kids under 6, 7 years old weren't wearing a hat. They were outside playing with all their shovels and making sandcastles, and they had no sun protection. And you see that they had an umbrella. No one was sitting underneath the umbrella. And it just kind of hit both of us as we were watching these families we're sitting here in the shade with sunscreen on and a hat. And then all these young kids that weren't wearing any sun protection.
Wow, in this day and age, that's like giving your kid a cigarette. It's crazy. I can't believe that people would do that.
I know.
Yeah. So when you see a patient who's a redhead, do you specifically ask them any questions that you perhaps wouldn't ask a blonde or brunette, or do you take it? Do you do anything differently?
Well, I ask every part of the questionnaire to find out your skin type, asks about your history of sunburn. So I do ask everybody if they've had severe sunburns, because if they have, then I want to do a full body check on them, whether their hair is red or not. But for the redheads, I do ask if they've had any melanoma in their family, and also if they've seen any moles that are changing. And I give them a little lecture, like we talked about here, about getting checked every year. And so I do take a little bit more time. But especially if it's somebody who comes in with a child, then I like to really tell the parents, listen, your child is at a much higher risk. It's genetic. It's, attached to the redhead gene. They absolutely have it. It's not a possibly. It's a for sure thing that they have the genetics. And if you can educate the parents, that's the best, is to try to catch people young. Now, if your parents didn't make you wear sunscreen, it's never too late. And most people don't realize this. I have sometimes 80, 90-year-old patients, and they say, honey, it's too late for me. I don't need to wear sunscreen. But the truth is when you're younger, your repair enzymes are better. So when the sun causes damage, your body can fix some of it. But when you get older, those repair enzymes don't work anymore. So you're actually more likely to have sun damage when you're older. So it's never too late to start taking care of your skin.
That's so important.
That's so important, especially for a lot of redheads who feel like, oh yeah, I'm in my 40s, my 50s. I don't need to do anything anymore. And it's like, no, you're still so young. You still have many years to go to wear sunscreen for sure.
Yeah, like anytime we're with our parents, our dad is a natural redhead. That's where we got our red hair from. And our mom, she's Swedish, so she's fair but blonde. And they live in Florida, and we're always talking to them about wearing sunscreen. Our dad's an avid golfer every day, and our mom's a swimmer. So they wear sunscreen, and it's just crazy. Our dad says he plays with these men in their 60s plus 70-year-old, and they're saying, no, I don't want to wear sunscreen. And even my husband, who plays golf, he has so many friends that just get sunburnt after 4 or 5 hours playing golf. And they always say, no, I don't need sunscreen. So I always make sure he has sunscreen in his golf bag. But they think they're too cool to wear sunscreen. But it's the sun. It's like the sun is a beast.
And it's going to burn you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And once they have to start getting all the skin cancers cut off, it's not fun having all those scars.
No.
And, I've seen people that have 100 to 120 different scars on their skin from getting all of their skin cancers off. So it just takes 1 second to put your sunscreen on, and it's so important.
Yeah. So I know you touched briefly upon on the fact that you get eyelash extensions, and we just wanted to ask, what's your favorite beauty treatment to get on yourself?
I feel like I get a lot with my hair colored and all that. I mean, I think I'd have to say a massage with I like that Xerophyte body lotion that I was talking about earlier that also works for your face. They make a great body lotion. And because I do have eczema all over. So, I mean, I don't because I control it, but I love that moisturizer. So I like getting a massage, but I don't think that's what you mean. Let me think. What would be my favorite beauty treatment? Oh, I love getting the V-beam laser. The V-beam laser is a vascular laser, and it targets blood vessels that are dilated. So when you exercise or have a motion or drink red wine and those blood vessels dilate, I talked about how they lose the ability to shrink back down. And you get like a little pink hue to your skin. And the V-beam laser, I do that about once or twice a year, and it just keeps my skin even toned and gets rid of all those little broken blood vessels.
Oh, we need that.
Yeah, we definitely do. And what about, a lot of people want to do laser hair removal, and redheads aren't usually able to do that. So what do you suggest people do if they want to get rid of hair, but they can't do laser hair?
Like Adrienne, you don't have a lot of facial hair. I have a lot of facial hair. I don't know if it's our mom has a lot of facial hair, so I always say it's from her side. I don't know if it's a Swedish thing, but what would your advice be for someone out there listening who wants laser hair removal, whether it's on their body or their face?
Well, the laser only works on dark hair. So if it's light hair, that's not an option for you. So if you have light hair, I like threading the best because with waxing, the heat can cause problems in people. And ripping the hair out of the hair follicle can cause ingrown hair sometimes, but it seems to be worse when you wax than when you do threading. If you have someone who's really good at threading, I think it has to do with the angle that they pull the hair out. We don't like electrology because over the years we've seen lots of scarring with that. So the depilatories like Nair that you put on, that's a tough chemical that just is almost an acid. It's actually the opposite of an acid, but it just eats away the hair and can really irritate your skin.
Oh, wow.
And then shaving's not as bad as we think, but the problem with shaving is that it cuts the hair at an angle that makes it pointy, so then you feel kind of prickly. So that's why threading is really the way to go.
Okay. And threading, Adrienne and I used to go threading on our upper brow and our chin every 3 weeks. So you recommend that?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It depends on how fast your hair grows, but usually some people every 4 weeks. Now there is a vitamin I love called Viviscal that makes your hair grow thicker and faster, and I love it to keep my hair long, and it makes your nails really strong. If you're on something like Viviscal, then you might have to thread more frequently.
Oh, great to know. And what we're seeing a lot on social media with collagen and how important taking a collagen supplement or powder. Do you recommend collagen as a redhead gets older? Because I know as you get older, you lose collagen, right?
I'm so glad you're asking that because that is my biggest pet peeve right now is those collagen things because they do not work at all. So basically, collagen is it's the structural support for your skin or the scaffolding of your skin, and your body needs vitamin C to make collagen. And there's tons of studies to prove that if you increase your amounts of vitamin C, you're going to make more collagen. So people should just be taking vitamin C. They don't need to take this expensive collagen drink at all.
Oh, wow.
And that it just gets broken down by your stomach acids, and it doesn't give you any kind of substrate that you need to make collagen better than just protein itself would have. So, when you're eating meat and fish and things like that, you're getting collagen. That's what that is. Muscle is basically collagen. So you're getting it anyway in your diet. Now, if you were vegan, you're getting some sort of protein, beans or something like that. So there's really no reason in the world to drink those collagen things, and they cost a fortune, and so many people are doing it.
Yeah, we're seeing it all over Instagram. And Adrienne and I the other day kind of looked at each other thinking, should we be taking collagen? And we don't eat meat, but we eat fish. So we're pescatarians. And I think we feel pretty good.
Yeah,
but
we feel good.
Everyone that we meet asks us now, oh, are you taking collagen? And we're not. But it's good to know that we should take. So you're saying a vitamin C supplement?
Well, I'm sure if you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, you're getting a lot of vitamin C in your diet. So if you're
Yeah.
getting citrus and avocados and all that, you're getting plenty of vitamin C, so you're fine.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
wow.
We love avocados. We have one a day.
Yeah, we love to eat healthy. It's definitely a hobby of ours, I
And I
think.
think
We love it.
eating healthy makes your skin healthy. So I think that's why, one of the reasons why we eat healthy. I've noticed if I go out to dinner, whether it's on vacation, after a couple of days, I'll start breaking out a little bit. And I think it's just from eating out and maybe the salt and the sodium.
Right. And salmon and other fatty fish like cod and things like that has a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, and those are anti-inflammatory. They also have linoleic acid, which is another fatty acid that's anti-inflammatory. So and it also helps you hydrate. That's why eating salmon is so good for your skin, and your face looks great. So probably when you get back home, you're being a little bit better about the kind of fish that you eat and things like that, and that's helping. So that's stopping a lot of the inflammation in your body. And I had a patient who was vegan who came in with terrible eczema. And I always ask people about their diet because it makes such a difference. And it turns out that he wasn't getting any kind of omega-3s in his diet. So we added a topical argan oil on his skin, and it cured his eczema. He just needed the linoleic acid, which is in argan oil.
Wow, that is so cool. It has always fascinated me how food and like the supplements in food naturally are just so beneficial for your skin and hair. I think people, I see them eating junk food or candy or fried foods.
Processed
And they
food,
think to
yeah.
them, I think a lot of people must think it doesn't really affect me. It can't really affect me. But it really affects you. It's like, it's the number one most important thing I think someone can do is eat healthy.
Oh, absolutely. I'm on the advisory board for Burt's Bees, and there's a couple of other doctors on there, and one's a naturopathic doctor and one's an herbal doctor. And so we all share science about food and diet and herbs and supplements and things like that. And it's so fascinating what they're learning. But the big move right now is in probiotics and what kind of probiotics to put on your skin to help your skin be healthier. And we really don't know yet, but we're learning that your gut and the bacteria in your gut affects your skin so much. So taking probiotics orally by mouth will probably help your skin. Like there's one study that showed that rosacea got better. So isn't that fascinating that the gut is controlling your skin?
That is so crazy. My husband, he's a redhead. We love redheads.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I didn't plan that. But he has horrible allergies. He's allergic to sesame, to gluten, to corn. The list goes on and on and on. And it's unbelievable how his skin has changed since he got rid of all of his. He used to get horrible breakouts on his neck, and he was just suffering with his skin. It was always like rashy and itchy. And now that he's changed his diet, and he's mostly paleo now because he has to be, and it's unbelievable. He has 0 breakouts. His skin looks better than when I met him 7 or 8 years ago.
A little glowy too.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm always, he jokes like, "Oh, yeah, I need some Botox." And I'm like, "No, you just need to keep eating better."
I mean, the
but
Botox
it's really
won't hurt.
right. Right. But I just am, it's fascinating to me about how food affects you.
Well, just like we were talking about inflammation earlier, that inflammation can be caused by lots of different things. It might be caused by your diet. So anything you do to reduce inflammation is good. And so argan oil, you can put that in your salads. You can put flax seeds in your smoothies. Flax seeds have omega-3 fatty acids in them. But anti-inflammatory foods just in general, which happen to be, fruits and vegetables and fish, the things we already know are healthy, will help anything from acne to rosacea to eczema, all those things.
Wow. This has been so informative.
I know. I'm trying to make sure I sink this all in, but then I realized that
we're definitely going to put this all in the podcast notes. But the last question we wanted to ask you was, you're such a strong woman who's so successful. And so we wanted to know if you had any advice for redheads who are listening in, or anyone who's listening in, who's striving to be successful and to do something great with their life.
I believe you need to read a lot. So years ago, I was on an airplane, and I looked around in the airplane, and I noticed that all the women were reading, romance type novels or fiction, just kind of fun novels. and the men were reading business books. And I thought, wow, that I want to be the one reading the business books. So I started reading business books all the time. And although I love reading fiction too, but I usually have them reading both at the same time. And it's just given me insights that I wouldn't have had that help me all the time in life. So I think people need to read outside their comfort zone, try to learn as much as they can about everything from marketing to accounting and finance and the behavioral psychology. I mean, there's just so many interesting things to learn that are going to help you in life, and you just can never quit learning, and you always need to push yourself and never give up. And then the other thing is you really need, and I'm sure that both of you had a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan, and you were focused. I mean, when I met you both probably a decade ago, you knew you wanted to do what you're doing now.
Right.
So you visualized it, and you did the work, and you put all the steps in place, and you stayed to the course. I'm sure you had times where you thought you were crazy and you had to give up and it wasn't going to work, and then boom, look what you've accomplished. So I think that women like you all who are successful do that and sit down and really think it out. And life doesn't just happen to you accidentally. It's people who plan it out. And people love that book, The Secret, and they always talk about it. But really, this book is just about thinking about where you want to be and having a vision and setting the steps to get there.
I love that.
Yeah, we love that. We love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And we know you're so busy. And so it's so wonderful to hear all your great advice.
And get all your tips, especially about collagen. I
just saved you a ton of money.
I know, right?
You really did. Well, thank you so much. And we hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, I'd love to talk again. Let me know. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Wow. So Dr. Baumann is amazing. I just am blown away by her.
She's a natural redhead, but
I know. And
even if she wasn't, I would still love her.
I know.
She's just so successful and I think the main thing, she's so knowledgeable. And I love her advice at the end, read, because I kind of get sucked into reading these. I love fictional books. I always have, but I think it's important to read things like finance, like marketing.
Something out of your comfort zone.
And then I took away collagen. I can't believe that.
I know. And to hear too, you guys, if you Google her, if you follow her on social media, she talked about her LinkedIn page, you will see how beautiful her skin is. It's literally flawless.
It's like porcelain.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So really take all of her tips to heart. I know that we will. All of her recommendations for products will be in the podcast notes. So definitely check those out.
It was interesting how she said about the UPF clothing, how when you shine your clothing up to a light, it just made me feel like I should do that a lot more when I go out in the sun. But
and find something with kind of openings near the arms, underneath the arms, so that airflow can happen. Because every redhead who's gotten sunburned on a day they weren't expecting to get a sunburn knows it's probably because they got sunburned through their clothes.
Right. And we're going to have a lot of her tips in the notes section. So again, if you are walking or driving and you feel like we feel, where it was a lot of amazing knowledge, we'll make sure to put in the notes section so you can refer back to it.
Yeah, so we hope to have her back on another episode where we can dig more in, because there is so much we can talk about, like the MC1R gene, the redhead gene, and other things that we can talk with her about. But we are just so pumped, and we have so many great episodes ahead. So we will talk with you soon.
Rock it like a redhead.